well-fed writer. My name is Susan Ferris, and this is my first ever Authortube and really even YouTube video. Today I'm of course going to do the Authortube Newbie Tag, and my script for this got a little long, so we're just going to dive right in and get to it so this video can stay a reasonable length. But first, a little quick intro about me. I come from a marketing background, so I believe in getting started quick, testing what you have, and iterating quickly so that way you can get a better version to your audience in the most authentic and helpful way possible. Thus why I'm doing a really super light setup for doing these videos and just getting them out there really quickly. I believe that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to do your best, be real, and be present. So I've been in marketing for the last 7 years, and I recently switched gears to do writing full time. And obviously, I'm a little nervous about it. That's why I'm talking fast and messing up my words. So we'll see how this goes. I'm obviously a little bit terrified. I have my Bachelor of Science in English Writing from Mississippi College, Southern girl, and I did a minor in literature, so I like to joke and call that a double major in unemployment. Obviously that hasn't, been the case. And then I recently completed my Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing through Lindenwood University. I do highly recommend that program if you're looking to do an MFA that's more craft-based and that embraces genre writing. So I do thoroughly recommend that program. As a side note, later on I'm going to do a video about the pros and cons of MFA programs and why that may or may not be the best fit for you. Not everyone needs an MFA program, of course. So last little note about me, I have 2 dogs, 3 cats, and a husband who's very wonderful and cooks for me all the time. And I guarantee you that at some point you will see all of them in these videos and me yelling at them. So we're going to dive right into these questions. Get my little script queued up. Alright, so how did you find out about Authortube? I found out about Authortube while looking for craft videos on YouTube. Loved the community. It was super welcoming, super supportive. Everybody was opinionated and passionate about what they were doing and what they were reading, and how they thought things should be done or not done. You know the people I'm talking about. So when I started doing some of my initial research for my author platform, which I'm in the beginning stages of getting set up, of course, Authortube came to mind and whether or not that might be a good fit for me. And I already knew from my work in marketing that I'm more comfortable in front of a lone camera than a bare microphone because I'm weird. So that's why I'm here on Authortube today. All right, so question number 2. What genres do you write in? I am a very proud genre hopper. Right now I do tend towards Southern genres. I'm obviously from Mississippi and I'm proud to be from the South despite our problems. But I do have some future projects that I already know that I want to do that are far outside that realm as well. So currently I am working on a Southern Gothic novel that I'm very excited about. It's called The Gravediggers Guild. And I'm going to do a separate video on that and introduce you to it and kind of really dive into what that's going to be about and introduce you to that world and those characters. I'm also working on a poetry chapbook called Flooding the Delta. And of course there'll be an in-depth video on that one as well. It's based on a form of poetry that's the Thai Nairat. Which I'm really excited to partner with one of my professors from grad school and help kind of bring that into the United States a bit more and get that just to be more popular here. And it definitely deserves a much closer look. And it also delves into my love for the Mississippi Delta, which is where my mom's family is from, and my grief over my grandmother's Alzheimer's. So that's going to be a much more in-depth video. So there's just a lot to unpack there. And then my final current project is an illustrated children's book for ages 4 through 6 called Llamas on the Loose, that I'm working on with a friend. And it's in the very, very early stages. I've just started kind of scoping it out. I also have some future projects planned out that span everything from a Southern magical realism series that's going to be for middle grade kids to a future dystopian sci-fi book that involves dinosaurs. I am a hopeless Jurassic Park fan. And then back to a Southern historical post-World War II novel that's going to deal with some kind of like PTSD, and it's really kind of inspired by some of my family's story. And then there's also a high fantasy series that I'll be resurrecting from a long dead project from the first ever novel that I tried to write from over a decade ago. I think the idea is pretty solid, but at the time I just didn't have the chops or really a solid enough grasp of story structure to really handle it. But shout out to Dr. Miller at MC for being a saint and reading all the sludge I put on his desk every week. He handled that like champ, and thank you for not failing me. And then I also write a ton of poetry. It's how I handle and process some of the more intense snippets of emotion, or just like philosophical musings on life and nature that don't really fit anywhere else in my body of work. So that's where my poetry comes from, is you know, me being emo. So yay for poetry. So the third question, all right, what is your preferred writing tense, point of view, and category of story? Well, I think we've pretty thoroughly covered category of story. I don't have a preferred one. I do pretty much everything. But as far as writing tense and point of view, right now I have been doing third person limited past tense. So in the Gravediggers Guild, it's actually alternating points of view, but it's all third person limited past tense. Later on, I would love to try a first person point of view present tense. And I'd also really love to try third person omniscient. Because I think if you can nail that, it would just be so cool to do. That's a very old style of writing, but I think if you can really handle that voice well, it's just such it creates just such a cool atmosphere. But you definitely have to have the right projects in order to do those. Otherwise they can just weigh the story down so much. Alrighty, question number 4, moving right along. Get some of my coffee. Alrighty, are you a plotter, pantser, or plantser? I am a very happy plantser. So the amount of planning and research varies from project to project. Obviously historical fiction takes a lot more, you know, research and planning than, say, typically a modern romance. But I do a bit of initial research and planning, just a little bit. Just enough to get the fundamentals of my story correct. So that way I don't have to, you know, rip out the main plot and revamp it when I get to the editing stage. And then I sketch out my beginning, ending, and key turning points along the way, instead of doing a full outline. And then I just start writing. I'll do more of an in-depth video on my structure and my sketching method as well later on. So, and also how I research. I use what's called a defensive method for research that can really speed up your process if you know how to use it to your advantage. But both of those two things deserve their own videos. So number 5, are you a self-published, published, or yet to be published? So I am yet to be published, and I haven't made up my mind on which direction I want to go for my career. I don't think there's anything wrong with traditional publishing. I think it can actually be a really powerful thing for your career. And there's something really attractive about having help getting all the design and the marketing and the distribution done. Coming from marketing, it can be a bit exhausting. And then if you're just really not wanting to do all of the distribution and the design, if that's just not something that you have any desire to do, there is no harm in wanting to technically pay other people with your earnings to do that for you. I mean, you're going to end up doing a good bit of that in self-publishing anyway. So it's really just how you look at how the money's going to get cut up. But if you are willing to grind a bit, you can have an amazing career self-publishing as well and technically keep more money on the front end. So it really just depends how you want to go. Hybrid careers are becoming more and more prevalent, whether you want to traditionally publish first and then self-publish, or self-publish and then move to traditional. It's, you know, apples to oranges, really. So what publishing company, literary agent, and or printing company are you represented by or use? If you're not yet published, what is your dream publishing house and or literary agent? So I've actually been doing a bit of research on this, and I have a couple of answers. Obviously I like research. So for the Gravediggers Guild, my Southern Gothic novel, I'm thinking a couple of good matches for me for agents would be Susie Townsend of New Leaf Literary, Amy Williams of the Williams Company, or Ellen Levine of Trident Media Group. There's a couple of others that I've looked up as well, but they're longer shots because they work with bigger names. So these three people, they have all worked with some of my comp authors. So I've actually already started working on finding my comps and people who work within the same genres that I do. And these three people have done, from what I can tell, a marvelous job working within the Southern literary and Southern Gothic genres, and getting these placed with places like Little Brown or Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Don't know about that. But anyway, so they seem to know which houses to work with and know how to promote their authors pretty well. So on poetry, it's a little less common for poets to go and get agents right away, but it can be done. So I've done a little bit of research on that as well. So for my poetry collection, Flooding the Delta, I think I'd really like to work with Rob McQuilkin of Massey and McQuilkin, and it would be an absolute dream to be published with Grey Wolf Press. I'm really just super impressed with all the work they do. They always have really nice look. I have tons of their books on my bookshelf. You can't see it, obviously. I've got a little bookshelf over here that's out of view, that's dedicated just to poetry and craft books. But all of their collections just look so pretty. They're just gorgeously done. The paper feels nice. The fonts are beautiful. It's laid out well on the page so that it's as beautiful to look at as it is to read. And I think the design of a poetry book is as important as the poetry that goes in it. So Grey Wolf Press is just like up there for me, even if they're not the biggest press on the planet. So number 7, moving right along. What Authortube related videos can we expect to find on your channel? This is actually a question that I wanted to ask y'all. What do you want to see? I'm definitely, because this is the well-fed writer, so I'm definitely going to focus on ways to build up your creativity and find sustainable sources or wells of inspiration. So that's actually where my channel name came from. I don't think inspiration has to be this mysterious thing or this force that swoops in and swoops out and we're at its mercy in the middle of this writing desert. we can dig our own wells and create our own oases to draw from again and again. And I think Austin Kleon is a creator that's a really good example of this. He's a poet and a creator, and he's just kind of like what I'd say is a really good paragon of creativity, and he has it down to a science of how he goes and finds his inspiration. Maria Popova, she also has just all these resources that she goes and finds inspiration from. I actually follow her e-newsletter, and without fail, at least 2 or 3 times a month, she's always sending out something that's super inspirational to me. So looking to other places and other people for inspiration is something that I'm really keen on showing people how to do. So, you know, things like that is definitely going to be featured on my channel. And then I'm always playing with different tools and apps and reading snippets of different craft books. So you tell me, would that be helpful to you? Would you like to see my thoughts on that? Are there people already on YouTube? I mean, of course there are, but are there already people on YouTube that you would like to see me talk with about that? So just, you know, tell me your thoughts on that. What would you like to see on that? And then, since I'm a poet, I see a lot of the basics on poetry on YouTube, but would anyone be interested in learning some more specific forms or writing prompts specific to poetry, how to work with sound and rhythm, and things of that nature? And then, of course, I'll also be doing book reviews. I read a ton, and I haven't decided if I'll do a separate Booktube tag for that yet, but I'll definitely be featuring book reviews. I actually have a couple of books sitting right here that I've got to do scripts for those book reviews, so I'm very excited about doing this. But that'll definitely be featured on this channel as well. So what's some content that you would love to see? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. All right, number 8. When did you start writing? I actually don't know. I found one of my first stories not too long ago when my mom dragged me over to my parents' house to help clean out my old room, and I was going through a bunch of crap. And I found one of the first little stories that I wrote, and I think, judging from the handwriting, it was about 4 or 5. And it was about Native Americans and hunting and wanting to have like 13 kids. Just no. Anyway, it was really, it was a bad story, but obviously I was writing even all the way back then. So yeah, I've been writing for ages, off and on a bit. But yeah, and that also answers question number 9. That's the oldest story of mine that I know about. I don't know if there are any older ones. Obviously that one's not a good example. So moving right on to number 10. What authors have inspired your writing? So recently, my big inspirations, I just love Madeline Miller. I could talk for days about Madeline Miller and her books, seriously. And she's kind of like my author crush, if you will. And then, of course, I'll always love Naomi Novik. I'm getting a little tired. Naomi Novik, Sarah Dessen, and then Erin Morgenstern. Haven't even gotten to read The Starless Sea yet. I just finished reading The Night Circus, and my mind is blown. Maybe I should do a book review on that. That would be fun. I feel like everyone does a book review on that one, though, so I don't know. But anyway, that book kind of, I felt like I was reading Peter Pan when I was reading The Night Circus, just that kind of like awe-and-wonder feeling. And then overall, just when I think about my life in general, I mean, kind of some of the usuals, obviously Tolkien, James Barrie, C.S. Lewis, Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte. Just some of the greats there are the names that come to mind. So those are some of my favorite authors there. And then question number 11. Do you schedule your writing sessions or simply get to writing whenever you can find the time? So I am fortunately in the very privileged position to be able to focus on writing full time right now. So I schedule-ish. I have a weekday word count goal of 1,000 words a day. And then of course I have other tasks that I complete throughout the day that are focused on my author platform and research and other items. And then I have a weekend goal of 500 words a day. And that's kind of how I keep myself moving forward. I found that it's a lot easier for me to maintain momentum than to try to do a bigger goal every other day or every couple of days. It seems to work better for me when I'm doing a more feasible goal every day. But that's just me. And then number 12, do you type on a computer, typewriter, write everything out by hand, or use a blend of those? And where do you write in general? So I use a blend. I prefer to brainstorm and take research notes on paper, and then I type the body of my story directly into my computer. But I have to edit by hand. So I try to be selective about when I print drafts off so I don't waste paper. I hate wasting stuff, but there's something about trying to edit on a computer. I always miss stuff, and it's just harder for me to make notes on there. It's just not how my brain works. And then for poetry, I definitely write by hand and draw if I'm doing shaped poetry and stuff. And then I transcribe it to the computer as well, just so I can keep all of my files in order. And then number 13, so we're gonna wrap up here. What are you most looking forward to now that you are a part of Authortube? The community by far. And just getting to know people and having fun. Just creating the videos that meet your needs. I really love helping people, so I think this is going to be a very rewarding process to me. I like connecting with people one-on-one. Crowds are kind of overwhelming, so I feel like sometimes social media is a better way for me to connect when I'm trying to meet new people, at least initially, because I can focus in on the one conversation at a time. And then it gives me time to really see what people are talking about and be like, oh, hey, here's this kind of niche need over here that I can talk to. So I feel like this will be a very good way for me to kind of, meet the crowd and see what the crowd needs without being overwhelmed by it. But to wrap up, a big shout out to author-tuber Shauna Phillips. I actually found her really amazing outline for these questions on her blog, so a big thank you to you. And then I follow Alexa Donne, Mandi, Lynn, Kat Cho, and Joanna Penn over at the Creative Penn. And that's where I got inspired to do a lot of this. It's just following them and seeing how much fun and how into it they get with doing all of this. So I'm really excited to be here. And that's it for this video. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. So be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm really just getting started up over on there, so I don't have a super amount of content, but that will start coming out in the next couple of weeks. And then I'm going to do a video for the Author Newbie Tag 2.0 here in the next couple of days, so be looking for that. And that's a wrap.